Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in for another episode to listen to an inspiring lady from South Africa, Nardia Moosa. So, Nardia, I'm going to let you tell everybody who you are and what you're doing. So, if you'll introduce yourself, please.
Thank you so very much, Melanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Nardia Moosa. I live in Glen Vista in the south of Johannesburg in South Africa. Yes, I am the chair lady and co-founder of an NPO called the Happy Belly Bright Minds Foundation. Now, this whole thing came about in 2014 when one evening my children and I, we were sitting and watching TV, and all of a sudden this person appeared in my lounge waving something that looked like a gun.
Wow.
And yes, so at that night we were robbed here at gunpoint. And what stood out for me during the whole experience was just this person telling us all the time, don't worry, I'm not here to harm you. I'm just working. I'm just doing my job. And I'm thinking, what? And he said, I'm just working. My child is hungry. I can't at night go to sleep when my child didn't eat. So if you people just all stay calm, I'm just here to work. So just stay out of my way. So we politely stayed out of his way. He was actually quite a polite little guy.
Wow.
he, 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 um, he apologized. He said, I'm sorry. And so it was
Oh,
actually quite
shame.
interesting. So although it was a very traumatizing experience for us, uh, his words, I'm just working, stuck in my mind. And in his mind, he was working. He was just doing his job. So we realized that the plight out there it's big, people will do anything, go to great lengths to feed their children. And at that stage, we started the Happy Belly Bright Minds Foundation. In the early years, we used to work a lot in some of the informal settlements here in Johannesburg. It's actually quite a few. Some of them are hidden sort of in the inner city in Selby side. The one it's a big one. It's grown tremendously large now next to the train tracks. Quite dangerous also because, the children play right there. But at that stage, it was a smaller place, and it was easier for us to get blankets and food to the children. I'm very passionate about the children. I'm a school teacher by trade, or trained to be a school teacher. Yes, so I love the children and working with them. But then after a while, it became a bit difficult because it grew so large, and with limited funding, then who do you feed and who don't you? And once the food is finished and there's still a line of people, so that became a challenge.
Are you networked in with any organizations that you get resources from?
Not at the moment. So we really are very dependent on public donation. So for a few years also I started to go back to school and so on. So the foundation itself was just laying low for a while. And then now with this whole Corona thing, we realized again the plight is big. We are contracted in with a company called Genesis, and they make a wonderful food. It's almost like a porridge type of a thing, but it's very high in nutrition. So it's got lots of vitamins and minerals, and it's got probiotics, and it's got a selenium complex that is very good for building the immune system and that type of thing. So it's got your amino acids. It's a complete meal in a glass or in a cup. And they have been working in the Western Cape schools to try and get this into the school so that the children at least can start their day off with a decent meal, because if you're hungry you can't concentrate, and if your body doesn't have the right nutrition you also can't, your brain development is stunted. So we have come across them and they are sponsoring us at the moment. So yes, long story short, at the end of April, I just started asking people for donations more, to support us, feeding people from my gate. On a Thursday morning, the recyclers come around, and so I've been making coffee and sandwiches and handing out some food parcels just with what I could buy. And so I asked people to start sponsoring a little bit. And then one morning, just for exercise, I was walking up and down in my driveway because, we were under lockdown, and came inside and I had a video about that old man in London that walked, I think, 100 laps around his garden, and he raised so much money. And I thought, wow, that's what I want to do, because I've always had this idea that I want to do the Camino. I don't know if any of you know about the Camino, what is it, a trail that spans over 800 kilometers. So I said to my husband, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk on the 1st of May for as far as I can to raise money. So I put that out there. And we raised quite a bit of money. And then while I was
How far did
walking
you
that
walk?
day, I walked 25 kilometers on that day. And now my drive
Literally walking your talk.
was 7 hours and I was kaput.
Oh, wow, that's an amazing story.
Shame, thanks. Oh, the other thing that I always wanted to do was Survivor.
Okay.
I've got to be doing things for them. I've never gotten around to doing it. So I said to my husband, you know what? I'm going to walk the Camino here in my driveway, 800 kilometers.
And what was his response?
I had a great response. And so far we've raised about 35,000 Rand. And yes, so the first day I walked 25 kilometers, the next day 15. And then thereafter I walk daily. So from the 1st of May, I've walked 296, I think, 296 kilometers. So I'm close to 300.
All in your driveway?
Mostly in my driveway, yes.
Wow.
Since we go outside on a Saturday and a Sunday morning, my husband will walk with me. Then we walk, you just here in our suburb a little bit, but mostly up and down the driveway. I've got this Strava app that tracks you, and it looks like a child's scribble.
Okay.
Just around and around in circles. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we've been raising funds basically to feed the people. So in conjunction with Genesis now, they what I love about this product is it's also not really available in the shop. So some people think, oh, you are punning a product, but I'm not. They pack it in such a way that you can. What I've learned is because we take so much for granted. I was in the shop and I wanted to buy some not the mealie meal, the like the samp, and I asked the lady that was there, what is better, samp or maize meal? And she said, you must remember that some people do not have electricity or they have prepaid, so samp takes a long time to cook. Yes. And meal, so we take things for granted. Or many of these guys that I'm talking to, they don't have stoves, so it becomes difficult to give them something that they actually have to go and home and cook a meal.
Yes,
we think it's easy, giving them some potatoes, but how do they cook the potatoes? And they can't eat a raw potato. So these things that we don't consider when we do these things. So what is beautiful about the Genesis, it comes in different packages, but some of it's just the powder pre-packed hygienically in its own little 50-gram pouch. So you hand out one pouch, it's one meal. And it's wonderful because you don't have to make it into smaller things, or they can just cut it open and mix it with water. The other packaging, which is amazing, especially in places where there isn't really clean water, there's two patches attached to each pouches attached to each other. The one has got the food in it, and the other one has got purified water in it. So you break it. You break a little back, you can almost say, the attachment, and then you squeeze the water through into the powder, and you've got an instant meal in a pouch. You just tear it then open and use it. So there's no cooking, no electricity, no stove, no water, nothing is required.
That's amazing.
So it's a wonderful way of getting food to people in a way that they can just use it immediately.
Okay.
So yeah.
And how many people have you fed during lockdown?
So I've got the normal guys that come here on a Thursday morning. So we've been seeing that, the numbers are starting to grow, and also the people that are coming are starting to grow. In the beginning, it was mostly the recyclers that go through the dustbins, and now we've got ladies coming around and people from different backgrounds. The faces are changing all the time, but also people that we didn't used to see here are starting to pitch up. I think the word is spreading. So on a Thursday morning, we feed about 30 to 40 people.
Okay.
But with these pouches, we've been sending stuff. I've got some in to send to a church in Scottsboro. We had 150 meals over there. Then we had now sent to Groot Mariku. It's my heart's place is the Groot Mariku in the Northwest Province. A lady there. It's just difficult, we are taking money in, and people need to know that the money is actually going to
Yes.
feed people.
Yes.
So that's very important. So we've also tried to team up, trying not to just distribute the food ourselves, because that becomes quite difficult, but to team up with people who we know that are doing the work and that's already on the ground.
Yes.
So we have a lady there in Groot Mariku Santa. She's been running the Tusanang early, not running it, but supporting. It's the orphans in a center there. And then also now more recently, they came across another informal settlement that's completely cut off from the world. There's no shop nearby or anything, loads of children and mothers. So we've been able to send a whole 4,000 meals to them.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's big. And then I've still got needing to just get into contact, because I waited for the deliveries, but I've got another 1,450 meals here in my garage that will go out this week, just also to people. So yeah, we've been managing to get to some people, but the
That's
need is so
amazing.
great.
So it's all volunteer driven at this stage.
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
all volunteer. So yes, the people have been amazing. I've got people that are giving smaller amounts, but on a regular basis. And then I had a massive 10,000 rand anonymous contribution. I still don't
That's
know who
amazing.
that was. When I saw that, I just cried. It's like,
Oh, that's
wow.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yes.
Some people really are generous.
Yeah, wonderful. One lady crocheted a blanket and she sold it on Facebook. And then when she heard about this, she contributed that whole 1,000 rand to the foundation, which was wonderful.
That's
For people
amazing.
who know how long it takes to crochet a blanket.
That's
Yes.
amazing. So
Yeah.
what I'll do is when I post this video, I will put all your links and contact numbers in to the description of the video so that anybody who wants to reach you can. Are you looking for volunteers to help you, or is it just money that you're really looking for?
At the moment, money, but I've also over the weekend we've been talking. When we went through to the Groot Mariku, and I was talking to the husband of Santa, and he was saying how somebody, I think in the Western Cape, is now also handing out seeds, and that to me made a lot of sense.
Yes.
So my next flight now is to, apart from just giving money, I'm going to start collecting yogurt tubs, and people must maybe bring yogurt tubs, soil, seeds, so that those that want to, that I can give them some soil and seeds so that I can actually start planting their own food. That's the one thing that I want to try and get off the ground as well. Some of the people that have been coming around, I've got their contact numbers, because one of the ladies, she says, if you know about anybody that's got extra work. So I took a phone number down, and I was thinking to contact her. And I've got another guy that does gardening, to just say, do you people want to learn how to plant? We take for granted that people actually know how to do this, and they don't necessarily. So maybe to invite them to come and just show them and give them some things for a starting point. That was the one thing. And the other thing that I also want to branch off, because I love handwork, crocheting and so on. So again, through this lady, just put it out there that come, I'll try and get crochet needles and wool, and so that we can teach you how to make beanies and scarves and whatever it is, blankets that you may need. And so for that, I may need volunteers, people that can help me to maybe teach the ladies how to do any sorts of craft work or things that we can start empowering people, not just because it's like it says in the Bible, give a guy a fish and he will eat for a day, and teach him how to fish and he will eat for a lifetime. So I think we need to start thinking differently about how we go about our charity work. It's all good and well giving, but you can't keep giving all the time. Better to give and give seeds so that in time they can have a little bit to feed themselves, when there's nothing else.
I think it's also very important for people's sense of self-worth that they begin to feel self-reliant.
Absolutely.
So,
Well,
and I think it's not great for people's self-confidence when they keep having to ask for and receive help without
yes.
being able to do anything for themselves. So I think that's a great angle a great direction that you're moving into.
Yes, thank you. My husband is a bit more involved with, we've got another part, so it's the Happy Belly, that's obviously the food part. Then Bright Minds, we've got one of our um, uh, directors here, he has a company called Shaping the Learner. So through Shaping the Learner, what they do there is they go into schools and they test the children and they see exactly, so say for instance in English, your English is poor because you don't have a good grasp of phonics, or your understanding, your comprehension isn't good, or so they can pinpoint precisely where the problem is, and then through that to try and correct that, so they can give the teachers feedback, say this is the problem, this is what you need to focus on. And then also through extra lessons and other companies that can assist to help to get these kids back on track. So that's part of the whole thing. And then one of the schools that we know, it's a school for disabled people, children and young adults, I think. So they've been growing their own food as well. But now they're in Lenasia, not too far yet from here. The only problem with that is they're growing food and trying to sell to the community, but they don't always have the support. So sometimes there's a lot of food available there that's not being sold. So through us now getting into contact with them, also to try and make their plight bigger, so we support them, they grow the food, we buy it from them back to then again give out. So, we can actually support one another in such great ways. We don't all have to do this, the thing ourselves. I was thinking, I need to grow the food. No, I don't need to grow the food. We can go to places that people who know how to grow it have the space and the time, and, we support them. They grow it and we buy it back from them, and then again, give to people. So one can create employment in this way, and so the circle can grow very big if one just applies your mind a little bit. But as you're
Absolutely.
saying, to give people that sense of self-worth, I'm looking after myself. You can see there's the pain in people's eyes when they come here. I think we're very removed from the reality out there, and we don't tend to communicate with people and look at them and look in their eyes and talk to them as a human being. So for me, it's important to just connect with them, to get their names, have a conversation, and you can see it's
Put
important for
yourself in
them.
their shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, that's my little story, really.
that's amazing. That's amazing. I think it's amazing. Why do you think it is that we are so detached, many of us, from the plight of others?
Hi, Melanie. That's a very good question. I sometimes think many people are just unaware.
Okay.
I think we live in bubbles. I think people, if you think, I'm 54, so in my time when we grew up, you often didn't have front fences, and my the dorpie where I grew up, Heidelberg, we used to walk to school and everybody knew each other and you were sort of connected as a community. But these days you've got walls, you don't know who your neighbor is. We all live in little bubbles. And I think we Afrikaans, they say salig onbewus. You know,
Mm.
you're just actually not even aware of what is going on around you. And that's why how I find that doing this work, you know, just actually, as I say, look into people's eyes,
Yes.
connect with them, greet
Yes.
them, you know, talk to them, and you realize that all these bodies that you see around you, it's not just bodies, it's people. There's a human in there. There's a person with feeling. There's a spirit. There's stories. There's greatness. There's heart sore. There's pain. There's suffering. There's so many stories around us, and I think we live when we choose to live so detached. We actually, it's an impoverished life, in my view. You know, we are poor,
Mm.
we're actually very poor. And when we start reaching out and just seeing others for who they are, I think it makes such a big difference in your life. It opens your eyes to so many beautiful things that we weren't aware of.
Yes.
So maybe it's just the process of starting to look through new eyes. You know, just I remember I read a book years ago by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he said, look at people and see beauty.
Mm.
And I was quite young and I was quite judgmental as well, as I think many of us are many times. I'm still judgmental sometimes. And I was driving and I got to the robot and there was a car next to me with two old Indian ladies. But they didn't, my judgmental eyes saw dirty hair and I didn't like what I saw. And the next moment, so I was going into my judgment mind, and the next moment, one of them must have said something hilarious, but they burst out laughing, and they were laughing, and they transformed in front of my eyes. I saw these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ladies, and I just realized in that moment, you know what? We've got to look for the beauty. We've got to
Absolutely.
find things in others that are beautiful, and it's there. It's up to us to find it. So I think we must start reaching out and even the, you know, the car guard, look in his eyes. The
Yes.
guy at the robot, look in their eyes. You don't have to give them anything. You can just say, greet them and say, I can't help you today, but bless you, or something like that.
Mm.
Um, I think sometimes maybe we feel that we can't help and therefore we don't want to make a connection. I don't know. um, I don't know what the story is with us humans. It's sometimes a sad thing.
Well, I think also, so I actually come from Joburg, and I think part of it there for me, I'm very aware of it now when I go back to visit, um, is that there's such an onslaught of people asking for help that it actually
Yes,
makes you feel paralyzed because you can't help everybody. And then
that's it.
also there is that element of desperation and crime that makes us all a little bit defensive. We're afraid to open our windows and to actually speak to people and that kind of thing. So I think there's a number of issues that are driving that. So it's wonderful
Yes.
to hear that you've come out of your bubble and found a way forward. That is so inspiring.
No, you know, the thing is that I've been through that fear. I've been robbed with a gun against my head twice in my little life. I've
Okay.
been smashed and grabbed. So for a while, you know, that fear. Anybody that comes up to your window, you feel paralyzed. You've got that fear. I remember also after we being robbed here, I sometimes I host meditation sessions, and the one evening we were standing outside, and my husband actually went for a walk, and he came down the driveway, but where he was coming from, it was dark, so I just saw this person coming towards us, and I freaked out. You know, so you've got this trauma inside that we need to try and overcome. But I think the best way to do that is to just jump back and go and meet people and go look in eyes and go see that most people are beautiful. I really, for me, people are the most beautiful things on this earth. There's so much light in eyes. There's so much beauty. There's so much love. There's so much caring, and we have to find that. You will always find what you're looking for.
That's,
So
that's
I
such
just,
an inspiring message.
yeah, I just feel, so on a Thursday morning, I throw my gate wide open. I've got an old ironing plank that's not used for ironing anymore. So on there, I put the sandwiches and the coffee and all the things, and that's the only thing that's between me and these people. And it's all strangers that are coming. But I can't be afraid. You can't be afraid. You can't try and help and be afraid at the same time. So over the years, I learned you expect to see love, and you will find that. And people come here, and they greet, and we talk, and it's really very, for me, it's my highlight of the week. So because yay, we get to meet more people today, and for me it's just wonderful.
So, for me, the most inspiring thing about the story that you've told me is that you had this episode that was extremely traumatic. I mean, being held up in your own home by
Yeah,
somebody who might endanger your family is very, very frightening. And instead of
yeah,
turning in on yourself and becoming protective, you turned around and you said, how can I get to the root of the actual cause of what's happening here? And I think that is absolutely incredible. That's very, very inspiring. Where do you see your organization in a year's time?
well, we've now, as I say, we are trying to get into the schools with this product. uh, for me, that the Genesis is going to be a big part of this whole thing, because it is so easy to give, so many of the schools in the Western Cape have already started using it, but now with the lockdown, everything is closed down. The schools are starting to open up slowly now. So I would love to really get huge funding so that we can get this into schools, all the schools. I want all children's bellies to be happy. A child cannot learn. And I think, how can we how can we empower our nation? How can we get children to become great if they can't learn, if they can't concentrate, if they can't become the best versions of themselves? And how can we, have you ever really been hungry? How do you learn? How do you concentrate? You can't if you're hungry.
Get
So for
hangry.
me, yes, very angry. And boy, oh gosh. So I just, if we can get this into schools, if I can get corporations to help so that we can get this wonderful meal, so that the child, many schools do have feeding programs, and we want them to keep their feeding programs. But if they can start the morning off with Genesis, with high nutrition, with fantastic energy, with your amino acids, everything, because it's got everything that child needs, 22 vitamins and minerals, So now it's a sustained release as well. So they've got energy and nutrients and everything their brain needs, the omega-3 oils, because the brain needs those oils to be able to function very well. And so they've got that. And then at break time or whatever, when their feeding program kicks in, then they at least have 2 meals a day instead of only one. So I would really love for us to be able to get meals into schools. Every single child must be able to have a decent meal. That for me, we can't grow as a nation if we are not growing our children properly. They have to, it's imperative. And when you see little children, me as a school teacher, you thrive on hugs, and you thrive on their smiles. And children are so unconditional. You can shout at them now, and tomorrow they hug you again. And they're so beautiful. So I think, yes, you it's I get passionate about these things. For me, when people go hungry, especially children, for me, it's a sin. I don't believe in much sin, because we just, trying our best in every circumstance. But when it comes to not feeding children, and not because there isn't money and not because there isn't food. It's just it's not in the right hands and it's not getting where it's supposed to be. That for me that's bad. It's very sad.
Well, I see we've come to the end of our time, Nadia.
How quickly.
Hopefully, so quickly, hopefully somebody out there will see this video and respond. And maybe
Oh,
we can do a follow-up interview in a year's time where you'll tell me that your dream of support and feeding more people has come true. So thank you very
problem.
much for your time. I appreciated
Thank
talking
you
to you
so
very
much.
much.
I enjoyed every minute. Thank you so much, Melanie.
Have a
Take
great
care. Bless
day.
you too.